Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my wonderful Period 1 AP biologist. Say hi.
Hi.
And we are starting our photosynthesis unit. What are these? Plants. What's another name for them?
Trees.
Autotrophs. Good. Trees. That's awesome. Okay, so they can be microscopic, they can be large. As compared to us, we are not autotrophs, we are what? Heterotrophs. We need to consume nutrients. So go to your notes where it says Photosynthesis and Organisms. So photosynthesis, you're going to convert what kind of energy? Solar energy into what kind of energy? Chemical. Solar into chemical energy of a carbohydrate, and it can be used for structure or fuel. Autotrophs produce their own food. Autotrophs produce their own food. Heterotrophs are known as consumers, and they take in preformed organic molecules. Take in preformed organic molecules. As building blocks and as a source of energy. Guys, can you do me a favor? In the group shared notes, do you have plant/animal/fungi?
Yes.
Can you change that to protists instead of plants? Like protista? No, animal and fungi is fine. They're both heterotrophs. All right. Blue tells Slate about oxygen. You've got it right there in your notes. Go ahead. All right. Now, guys, you're getting kind of goofy on me. Dial it in. All right. So, this, if you take a look at this, you're seeing reactants coming in. Why doesn't Slate go ahead and explain this picture? Look at all the different things that are labeled in this picture. Go ahead.
Carbon dioxide, sunlight that grows nitrogen, water and oxygen, downstream, water, oxygen, nutrients, all products of trees. Water and oxygen are entering the roots, and then a bunch of other nutrients are
Okay, now I want to ask you a question. Up here, this portion, okay, this portion of the plant, are they doing photosynthesis? Yes. Are they doing cellular respiration? Who does cellular respiration? All cells. Okay, so yes, they are doing cellular respiration. Remember, what organelle, if you're a eukaryotic cell, what organelle are you using to do photosynthesis? To do photosynthesis, chloroplast. What organelle are you using to do cellular respiration? Okay, now, down here in the roots, I know this is kind of like a Minecraft drawing here. Down here in the roots, okay, are they doing photosynthesis? Yes or no? No, why? There's no light, okay? So they can't do photosynthesis. They're under the ground, okay? They're not going to do photosynthesis. Are they doing cellular respiration? Yes. Who does cellular respiration? All cells, okay? So they're still doing cellular respiration. Where are they getting their sugars from to do cellular respiration? Yeah, the leaves are doing photosynthesis, and they're sending these sugars down here to get stored so the roots have something to do cellular respiration with. What's cellular respiration going to generate for you? ATP, and ATP is the energy currency of the cell. So any cell that wants to function needs a source of ATP. So they will all be doing cellular respiration. But some cells will be doing photosynthesis. You see the big picture? Okay. Now, the process of that, okay, take a look right here. We know that some items are going to get reduced and some are going to be oxidized. They just simplified this right here. So I would like Slate, identify, we've done this once before, identify what gets reduced, what gets oxidized. Go ahead. of what we have already done. Okay? Take a look at your notes. Reactants. Reactants. Solar energy, water, and CO2 are reactants for photosynthesis. Water comes in through the roots. CO2 is in through the stomatal openings of the leaves. There's little spaces in there. And then both diffuse into the chloroplast. Diffuse into the chloroplast. So let's talk about the chloroplast. This is a leaf cross section. Okay, a leaf cross section. You can see openings in the leaf right here. Okay. You can see openings in the leaf right there. Thank you. Okay, this is where gas exchange is going to occur. You have to have openings because most of the leaf is going to be covered by a waxy cuticle. Why? Why would it be adaptive to have a waxy cuticle? Waterproof. What are you concerned about? Water getting in or water getting out? Water getting out. You're trying to conserve that water. Okay? Remember, transpiration is going to happen right here too. What's transpiration? Water is evaporating out. Okay? Now, okay, so within each of these are cells, and within those cells there are little green dots. Okay, what are those little green dots? What? Chloroplast. Chlorophyll is the pigment. Okay, so when you look in here, it's kind of dark. When you look, whoa, that looks so good. It's so sharp. Yeah. So within the cell, there's a big blue thing there in the middle. What do you think that is? Vacuole, which is generating what? Turgor pressure, which is going to affect what?
Oh, water potential.
Water potential. All right. Within that cell, you have chloroplast, double membrane, right? Which is leading, what do we think about? Double membrane, symbiotic hypothesis, good. And in the center here, there are stacks of membranes. When we have lots of stacks of membranes, we are increasing the surface area for reactions to take place. I also want you to see what these stacks allow. See if I can get it here. What these stacks allow. Are you ready for this? Inside, we've got membranes, right? And then we've got another membranous vesicles within the chloroplast. We could maybe concentrate hydrogen ions inside of there. If we do, they're going to want to go out. What will they make when they go back out? ATP, right? Through the chemiosmotic synthesis, right, of ATP, right? Through some maybe ATP synthase complex? Yes. Okay. So they'll go back out. Now, on these membrane stacks, are you ready for this? These thylakoid membranes are pigments. What are those pigments called? Chlorophyll. You know what chlorophyll will do? It'll capture the sun's energy and get electrons excited so they can go right? Right? And through the process of that, we can reduce some NADP and make some ATP. That's where we're going with that. Okay? So you have different parts to the chloroplast. You have these thylakoid membranes that are stacked up, and then you have the stroma surrounding them, and different reactions will occur in different places. Take a look at your notes. Chloroplast anatomy. Number 1, it's a double membrane. Number 2, the stroma is the semi-fluid interior. CO2 is fixed here into carbohydrates. Let's think about that for a minute. CO2 is fixed into a carbohydrate. Think about this reaction. Think about right here. CO2 is fixed into a carbohydrate. Is CO2 getting reduced or oxidized? Reduced. And this is going to occur specifically in the stroma of the chloroplast. Okay? Now, in order to do that, in order to do this, CO2 is gaining what? What is it gaining here? Hydrogens. Where do you think those hydrogens are coming from? Do you see that? The hydrogens from water are given to CO2. What's then left over right here? Oxygen. Do you see the big ticket here? We're using the sun's energy to transfer hydrogens, their electrons, to CO2. What do hydrogens equal and electrons equal? They equal energy. We're taking the energy, we're using energy from the sun to give CO2 hydrogens. We're fixing them into a carbohydrate, and a byproduct of that is going to be oxygen. So we walk away with glucose and oxygen. Youngest bio buddy, in your own words, talk about what's occurring here. Go ahead. Thank you, baby.
Those two lines like form one perfect.
Okay, now, are you ready? We talked about an energy transfer molecule. Do you remember the name of the energy transfer molecule we're going to use in photosynthesis? What is it going to be? NADP. Here's the deal. NADP is going to take these hydrogens temporarily, okay, and it's going to become NADPH2, and it's going to be the one who actually gives those electrons to the CO2, and then guess what? Once it gives them, it reforms NADP again. It's a cycle. So water will give its hydrogens, electrons, right, to NADP. NADP says thank you. When it gets it, will it be reduced or oxidized? When the NADP becomes NADPH2, is it reduced or oxidized? It's reduced. When something is reduced, does it have more or less energy? More. It's going to then give that energy to CO2 to turn it into what? These hydrogens here were held by NADP temporarily. Once the CO2 gets those hydrogens, then now NADP has given them up. It just got what? Oxidized. Okay? And then it can happen again and again and again. Okay, that's your big ticket. The process of how that goes, you have your light reactions. This is old school, light and dark. They used to say that because the light reactions required light, and they do. And so they called the other reactions that didn't require light, they called them dark reactions, but that would imply that they needed the dark. And that part is not true. So you call it the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions. Does that make sense? And in the light-dependent reactions, see this green thing right here? This is a thylakoid membrane of a chloroplast. Remember the structures that look like this? Yeah. That's what this is. And you're going to take water and you're going to break it in half. And when you break water in half, what will you get? Oxygen and hydrogens. The oxygen is now released. Breathe in. Breathe out. The oxygen you were just breathing in this second, that oxygen you just breathed in, came from plants splitting water for you. When they split the water, they generated oxygen. The hydrogens got given to NADP to reduce it, which it would give to CO2 right here. So ultimately you could generate what? Sugars. Okay? And once it's handed off those hydrogens, it gets oxidized and it can be reused again. And anytime you're going to do like this, some sort of synthetic reaction, you probably are going to need a little bit of energy. So we're going to also get what from the light reaction? Some what? ATP. How are we going to get that ATP? Through chemiosmotic synthesis of an electron transport chain that is occurring on those thylakoid membranes, that na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay? So that's how you build the sugars. This is called the light dependent. This is the light independent. This occurs on the thylakoid membranes. This reaction occurs in the stroma, the space around the chloroplast. Okay, so on your notes, you have chloroplast anatomy. You have double membrane, stroma. You have semi-fluid interior, CO2 fixed here into a carbohydrate. The thylakoid membranes for increased surface area, ATP, NADP reduced is generated here. Forms interconnected spaces where hydrogen ions can be concentrated. Pigments are in the membranes, the grana are the stacks. Okay, on the overall process, we did this already. You have the reaction, the role of NADP or NADPH. Water initially provides the electrons to reduce CO2 into glucose. Slate, you tell them number 2. You have everything. Go Slate.
The electrons that are given to the NADP are first dependent reaction to their given to the CO2 should be the Thylakoid Membrane reaction.
Okay, the 2 reactions. The light dependent reaction, water is split, NADPH and ATP, and oxygen are products. In the Calvin cycle, that's another name for the light independent reaction, you're using ATP and reduced NADP from the light dependent reactions to reduce CO2 into carbohydrates. To reduce CO2 into carbohydrates. Okay, and that is where we'll stop today so we can take our quiz. #awesome sauce.